Let's talk about Ableton. I've been wanting to put together some videos that just kind of break down my process, what the sets that I send out, what each individual element of them does, and how to build them and route them and all of that. So in this video, we're just going to kind of break down the set, the individual elements of it, and kind of demystify each element so you can look at it on a Sunday and know exactly what everything does, and you can troubleshoot when stuff goes wrong. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about the individual elements. So what we're looking at here is the timeline view, or the arrangement view. If I hit tab or go up here, it goes into session view. I do a lot of my audio routing in session view because I can look at the track, I can see exactly where it's going, and I can send it to different groups or buses for output. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But tab is how I get from arrangement view to session view. Or you can hit this little button up here, but I usually just use the keyboard shortcut as I like to do. In arrangement view, you can see every audio and MIDI track. So every element of the set is represented here. We have Be Glad, all the individual instruments. We have the counting cues. So let's take it from the top. So first you have your timecode track. Timecode is an audio file that sends out frequency pulses in certain time lengths that basically tell other computers and systems in your building what time the Ableton project is at, and that allows your ProPresenter and your lighting and whatever else is on timecode to stay exactly in sync. It helps all your computers. It sounds terrible if you've ever heard it. I'll give you a little demo. Yep, but with those pulses, other computers can read and they can stay locked together in sync. So this timecode track will typically get routed out only to, like, directly to your ProPresenter computer or directly to your lighting computer, and we do that through the audio routing section. The next is the MIDI click. The MIDI click, this is really important. It's a MIDI track, and it's kind of like, you can think about it like playing piano notes, but instead we're playing the sounds of a MIDI click. So when I double click this white bar, you can see it opens up the MIDI piano roll editor, and we have these little notes for the click track. Let me go ahead and route that to where we can hear it. So we have the downbeat sound and the subdivision sound, and I can change those. If I took all of these and moved them up, it would change it to all be right. So those are individual notes. If I needed to make that a triplet click, kind of like Take You at Your Word has, I could. That's not the right timing, but you get the idea. So these notes are actually what are making the click track click. So that's what that does. Now, I do have a secret chicken that lives in this track, and you may have encountered the chicken click before. But if I move these up to downbeat and cluck, yeah, that exists. Anyway, that's a little Easter egg that I put in my sets. But that's how it works. You have a MIDI track that's basically playing notes, and those notes have sounds associated to them. If I were to double click on this MIDI click channel, it brings up the actual instrument. If you've ever used a drum pad, it's basically just a bunch of big buttons, and every button when you hit it has a sound. That's exactly how this works. I load the samples into each pad on whatever note I want it to be. So here's the first click sample. Let me route that back to the master here. Here's the first click sample. There's the second. There's the chicken. There's the other chicken. And you can load any sound into these pads that you want. Once you load that sample into that drum pad note, it appears on the piano roll in this clip. And then you can write notes to it and make those notes play those sounds. So that's how the MIDI click works. The great thing about that is the same click region can be used for any song, because I'm not locked into having to use a specific click for a specific song, because it just follows whatever tempo the project is at, whether it's over Be Glad or whether it's over On Earth As in Heaven. The click follows the tempo of the project, and the tempo of the project is set by this pink track. So this pink track, what it is an audio track that has no audio in it. You can see here there's nothing there. So it's a blank audio file. But this blank audio file, what we do is we set it to what's called a tempo leader. And what I do is when I double click on that pink track, I set the tempo here, 97, and then I click this little lead button. So we make sure it's warped, and then you see you got lead or follow. When I hit lead, every time the playhead goes over that pink track, it will change the project's tempo to whatever is set here. So then the counting cues fall into that tempo, the MIDI click falls into that tempo. So I could use one MIDI click region across the entire project, and it will change tempo whenever that pink track changes. So, see that? So it's one tempo on this track, and as soon as it goes to this one, it snaps to that other tempo. So I don't, I can use one click track for the whole thing. And this is a lot less limiting than using the audio clicks that come with the multi-tracks. It allows me to do a lot more things with transitions that are really, really handy to do. So that's what that does. So the pink track locks the tempo in. The marker track is just for a visual reference. I build these so that in the middle of the sets you can see where the bridges are, where the choruses are. If we need to go back and repeat a bridge, we can just scroll over here, click on the bridge area, let's go to the count in, and then hit play. Let me put those cues in the speakers too so we can hear them. But that's what it's all about, is with the marker track, I can see, oh, there's the bridge. I can click.
Bridge 2, drums 4.
Without that marker track there, it's a little hard to tell where we are in the song, even by looking at these cues down below. So I just use the markers as a reference, and I make every individual one a different color. So at a half a second glance, you can tell where the different songs are and then what section of the song you're in. It's just everything that I do, I want it to be very visual, so that if I look at this project, I can immediately see, oh, this is song 1, this is song 2, this is song 3. If all of these are the same color, it's a lot harder to get that reference. So that's what I do that for. So these two channels, the tempo and the markers, don't have to be routed to anything. There's no audio going through them. They're just for setting the tempo and then a visual aid. So they have no audio associated with them. The cues track, I build these myself. The multi-tracks comes with some, but all they do is go chorus. And then you're left to basically figure out where the chorus starts, right? I want them to count me in, specifically because if we get off the track, we want to be able to get back on very easily. And so there are a lot of times when those counting cues have rescued us, because it counts us chorus, 2, 3, 4, and we're back in on the track. So we can always lock back in with the counting cues. The way that I do these, and you can change these on the fly. If you don't like what a cue says, you can change it, because it works the exact same way as the MIDI click track. The MIDI click track has notes that correspond to sounds. So does the counting cues track. So if I go to the actual master track instrument here and double click it, you'll see all of these samples, every individual sound that the cues can make.
1, 2, 3.
Got
intro.
I've got all those little things that she says.
Interlude.
Right? And so now that I've loaded all those samples into this drum pad instrument, whenever I make a region in that track, so if I double click this track and create a region, I'll do it over here, it opens up this piano roll. And I can stick things in that piano roll. I can just stick some notes in there. So say I want it to say breakdown. I just add a breakdown note. And now when it goes over that,
breakdown.
It's that simple. So every one of these cues, like the intro cue here, if we open it up, this is a 2-measure cue. You can see it says 1, 2, and then down here we got vamp, 2, 3, 4. So
1, 2, vamp, 2, 3, 4.
And I can change that. If I wanted it to say 6 for some reason, I could just drag this note down to 6. Or have it say both at the same time.
1, 2, vamp, 2, 3, 3.
So it plays it just like a piano, but instead of piano notes, every note is a different thing that she says. And so you can adjust those cues and change them on the fly as much as you want, and they lock into the tempo. That's the really important thing. Say we wanted to slow a song down. All I got to do is change the BPM of the pink track. I don't have to do anything else. and I can slow that song down. It's pretty cool. But yeah, those cues count, and I really love that. So I build these into the songs and have it count us into every individual section. This needs to be routed to your, if you have a cues channel or a click channel, the audio gets routed to that. The next is really exciting. This is the control channel. The control channel literally just controls the project. So say I have a moment that I want the project to just stop. I can double click on the control channel, create a control region here, and then I can assign MIDI notes in the project that control it. So I happen to know that an F-sharp -3 is a stop cue. So if it's an F-sharp 3. So if I go to an F-sharp 3, there's a 4, this is an F-sharp 3. That's going to cause the project to stop when the playhead gets to it. So watch this. Whoop, it stopped. So as soon as it hits that F-sharp 3, it presses the stop button in the project. And the way that works is through these MIDI assignments right here. If I expand this left window and then I click this MIDI button, it shows me what all the notes are for all the buttons that are currently assigned. Okay, so I have a start, which is a play button. I have a stop. I have notes for every individual song locator. And then I have a click on and off button. These are some leftovers from when I used to do some other audio work. But if you want to assign a new function, say I need a button that mutes a track. Really easy to do. All I got to do is make a region in the control channel track. Just double click the control channel track to make a region. And let's assign something to a D#8. Okay, so D#8. Now I have this D#8 note in here, but it doesn't do anything yet. I want to assign it to mute Be Glad. Okay, so we come to the end of Be Glad, and I have a region that mutes Be Glad. All I got to do is click this to set my playhead there. I'm going to click MIDI to go into MIDI assign mode, and all of the things that are assignable are purple. So all the things that I can assign a note to is purple, and it's pretty much every button in the program. So you can make it do anything you want. Let's make it assign it to this mute button here on Be Glad. So I'm going to click that. So now we're in assign mode, and then I'm just going to play this MIDI note. Watch.
1.
All right, once I did that, you can see it assigned D#8 to this mute button. Now we're going to come out of MIDI assign mode, and the next time it goes over that,
1.
it just turned Be Glad off.
And
let's go over it again.
1, 2.
Okay.
1. 2.
Well, it works.
1.
See how it flashes on and off? So there's a, see, I think I need to switch that to D#8, D#8, speaker on, right? So any individual element can be assigned, but I really use it for loop sections a lot. So I use it in the host moment primarily. So what I do for host moment, and I have this in my template, but if I create a new locator, let's rename it, Command R, and say host. Now I create a brand new control channel. Let's assign this becomes a loop section. So let's assign this host marker to an A#3. Okay. I'm going to click on that note, click MIDI assign mode, select the host marker, and play that A#3. Now that A#3 is there. So now every time this playhead goes over that note, it's going to loop back to the host moment. Look at that. It's going to take a measure. It waits for the downbeat. But this is how I create loop sections. And we can extend that click track out through that loop section. So that click just loops indefinitely. And I got to make sure to put the pink track so it's in the right tempo. But that's how I do host sections. I just assign a note in the control channel. Pretty nifty. It's a really handy thing to do. So, the next is just the groups of individual instruments in the songs. So Be Glad, if I expand that, I've got every individual instrument in Be Glad. And it's really important for your sets and to support the band well that you go through these and figure out what parts you're not playing and what parts you are. So one of the things that I spend a significant amount of time on is going through each of these 5 EG parts and leaving in the things that my people aren't playing. So EG3 parts that have a lot of rhythm, or maybe there's a lead line in there that I know that they're not going to do because there's other lead lines happening. I'm going to figure out what parts need to be muted and what don't. And I'll go in there and I'll do that. Now, sometimes they'll be playing a section here, but they won't be playing the rest of the track. So I can just come in here and drag away this part of the track. And then, so they'll play this, so it's not there, and then, the rest will be played. I'll do that sometimes. I don't go into that level of detail a whole lot. Most of the time, I'm just listening to what EG1 is playing and going, okay, they're going to take care of that. But I'll go to EG3 and I'll be like, yeah, nobody on our stage is going to be playing those parts. So I'll leave that in and I'll mute EG1. Take the time to go through that. To support your band properly, it'll make your mixes sound fuller and better all the time. So that's what I do. Down here are the groups that I route each individual type of instrument to. And I'll go ahead and go through how I route things. This is really important. The most important thing to do is make sure, obviously, that your MIDI click, your cues, your time code are routed to the correct outputs, and then that the rest of these tracks, every individual track is routed to the correct group. So these tracks get routed to these groups, and then these groups get routed to audio outputs, right? I'm going to do another video that'll show you how I assign those things, but this is just a good overview to see what every individual part does. So we'll go to routing in the next one.